Hi, my name is Gloria Byatt. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. My crafting room is called Stampin' Gloria's Crafty Corner. So thank you for coming and joining me today. We're going to focus on some really pretty Christmas cards, and one of the ones I'm featuring in this video is based on the beautiful dies from the Pinecone, Christmas Pinecone die set. We'll also be featuring the stamps from Christmas to Remember, which is a wonderful Christmas sentiment stamp set. Now together they make a bundle, and it's a great bargain with a 10% discount from Stampin' Up! All right, let's get started making that beautiful card. For this project, this lovely card is primarily made of die cuts. So we will be using from our Pinecone die set this broader base. There's two like this, but one cuts the thin outlined greenery such as this, and this one cuts out this broader leaf background that allows us the template to put our little pine cones. So we're going to do quite a bit of die cutting, and it's very easy to get started with this project. You simply need a piece of cherry cobbler that's 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored in half at 5 1/2, and you will need 2 of these basic white pieces. They are cut at 4 1/4 by, cut at 4 inches by 5 1/4. So 2 of those. One will go on the outside and one will go on the inside. You also will need a piece of garden green, and it needs to be about at least 5 inches, if not 5 1/4, by 4 or 4 1/4. So basically a quarter panel of the cardstock so that we can cut out this nice pretty greenery. So we're going to start by we're going to start by die cutting our pieces, and that way we can layer them as we go along. Now this first one, as I mentioned, comes from the Pinecone die set. So I'm going to lay that on my piece of garden green. Line it up, and then put the plate right above it, and let's run it through. Okay, so now we'll flake off the extra pieces. I like to use my little tool for this. It just helps me break it apart, especially since there's so many little delicate leaves here, pine needles. Pop that out. There we go. All right, so now we're ready to put some pine cones here. For the pine cones, I'm going to use some soft suede for the background. I have in this die bundle, it's perfect for making your project easier. You'll have 4 of the small pine needles. So you have, pine cones. So you have the base, which we're going to cut in soft suede, and then you have the detail. And the same is true with the larger pine cone. And if you'll notice on this base piece, I have space for 3 large pine cones, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the smaller pine cones. Now, for me, it's easier to run them at the same time. It makes it quicker. So I'm just going to give you the example of one of them. So if I run these 3 together, I'm going to use soft suede for them. Let me get my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine back out. So I will grab some soft suede scraps. Now this is the base, so it really doesn't need to be it can be any kind of scrap, and you also don't have to worry about detailed cuts, so you really, it's easy to use adhesive after you've cut them. So we're going to put those pieces there. And then I have, let me see if I can fit this together. What I've done, and what I was trying to describe, is I'm using scraps of early espresso, and I have used these adhesive sheets that we sell at Stampin' Up. And they really help tremendously so that when you die cut something that has intricate detail like this pine cone, it will already have the adhesive when you're cutting out the piece, and it makes it easier to adhere to the other. So before I run this, it just dawned on me I want to trim some of this sticky part off because I don't want it to ruin my plate. Well, through the magic of the camera, I've already die cut all my pine cones, and you can see where I adhered the early espresso to the soft suede. And as I showed you earlier, this die piece is magnificent because it tells you exactly where you're going to lay your pine cones. Now, I'm being sneaky. That's the back side. I've already put my pine cones on those spaces designated for the pine cones. Isn't that lovely? So we're going to go ahead and adhere this piece to a piece of 5 1/4 by 4 inches cardstock. And the best way to do that is put a little dab of glue behind the biggest spaces, which are the pine cones. And then I like to put a little dab up here, not too much because I don't want a lot of glue coming out on my card. Let's flip this over and lay it down on our card. And the glue is nice and liquidy, so it just helps just straighten out those pine needles. And there you go, a lovely, let's put some glue here, a lovely setting for those beautiful pine needles and pine cone. Looks like I forgot to put it, either I forgot to put the pine cone or it came off. Looks like I forgot, but I have plenty. I love making these pine cones. They're just so easy. Like I said, all the work is in the dies, and it's just a matter of rolling that die with that cardstock through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. All right, let's put this on top of our cherry cobbler. Remember, that's a 4 1/4 by 11, and we're going to lay that and center it to our card, our base card. I'm going to use a little bit of glue here. There we go. Just enough to get that onto the front of our card. Now, we'll be layering a sentiment in just a moment, so while we get ready to start stamping, let me pull that out. Okay, so the pieces that I'm going to be stamping on, this one I've already pre-cut from Seasonal Labels, and I'm going to stamp Merry Christmas, or no, actually this one I'm going to stamp Season's Greetings with the Cherry Cobbler ink. So let's get that open. And we're going to get Season's Greetings, tap, tap, tap. Let's center it right about there. And we're ready to adhere that. Now, while I still have the cherry cobbler out, I'm going to be using 3 other colors. I'm going to stamp the pine needles onto my base card, the inside card, I should say. And I'm going to need the early espresso and the soft suede, as well as the cherry cobbler. So let's get the pine needles, tap, tap, tap with the garden green. And I'm going to do that down here at the base, just make a little V shape. Now the pine cones, I'm going to use the broader base with my soft suede. And remember that I am going to stamp off the soft suede just a bit because my ink pad is very juicy and it comes out very dark. So now I'm going to use full amount of ink with early espresso to put the trim on the pine cone. Now I want to bring out some of that cherry cobbler, so I'm going to use the sentiment, Friends Like You Make This Season, And I'm going to just tap that up here on the left-hand corner. And now I have my little card ready. Oh, I do have, in this stamp set, I do have the little berries. And there's just a real pretty spot to put that there. See? So that just brings that cherry cobbler into blend with the base of our card. Now let's start assembling, and I'll show you how I'm going to put the sentiment on top of the card. I always remember to stamp before you adhere it, so we're going to adhere our base now. Inside base card, I should say. There we go, like that. So that's nice and pretty, and almost as beautiful, if not as beautiful, as the outside of our card. Now with the season's greetings, I'd like to do a little punch on each of these ends because I'm going to do my ribbon just a little different today. I'm going to carefully line this up, just kind of make sure that it's as straight as can be. I still, sometimes, oh, I made it. Sometimes I miss the mark. But once you see how we put the ribbon in, it's really not a tragedy if you miss lining it up straight. There we go. See, this one's a little bit off, but I'll show you. Once we put this beautiful cherry cobbler metallic ribbon, it's one of my favorites, you'll see how that off-centered hole isn't going to be too much of an issue, or an issue at all, actually. All right, the first time I make the knot, I just get really silly and pull a lot of ribbon because it's easier to manipulate that way. And then I just tie my knot. I'll leave about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch there because I'm going to trim it and get that frayed edge straightened out. And then I'm going to pull the ribbon behind the sentiment, and I'm going to guesstimate that I need about that much ribbon. Now, this is where I have to give it a little bit of a bend so I can give myself enough room to tie the knot. It allows me to pull some extra ribbon to play with. I know that I'm just going to leave a little bit on the edge, so I'll still have plenty of ribbon for my season greetings sentiment. There we go. Now I should be able to flatten it out. There we go. And you can always pull on those knots a little bit more. So let's go ahead and get rid of those frayed edges. I have these special scissors I label so that they stay sharp, just like my grandma taught me. Fabric scissors are a must, and you have to protect them. Okay, let's put some dimensionals on the back side of our sentiment to hold it down on the card. Got carried away with my little dimensionals, but that's okay. There's never too many dimensionals on a project. I love it. I love them. And they're so inexpensive. You know, the first time I started stamping way back in 2004, I remember the demonstrator, who's now my upline and really good friend, would just use them like crazy on all her projects. And I kept thinking, oh my goodness, we're going to run out of dimensionals. It's going to cost a fortune. And they don't. And there's a lot of them that come in a package. Off the top of my head, I want to say 300 and something, but I'm not positive. But there's certainly a lot. They last a very long time. All right, there you go. Season's greetings. Friends like this season, friends like you make this season special. I have some rhinestones. I want to add some rhinestones. Goodness, I can't believe I almost forgot my rhinestones. It just jazzes up our project a little bit better. And I will just use this tool. This popped off the base of my tool, so I like the putty end, but for the moment, put one right there where it show. Okay, and put another one. Ooh, let's see, right about there. I want to do one more. There we go. I'm going to put it right about here. There you go. Season's greetings. Now we have a lovely Christmas card using the bundle with Christmas to Remember and the Christmas Pinecone dies. Well, I hope you come back and visit my YouTube channel. Anytime you want to shop with me, I'm found easily at stampingloria.stampinup.net. If you want to sign up and get newsletters from me and follow my blog, please go to www.stampingloria.com. And if you're shopping with me this month, here's the hostess code that I'll be using for the month of November. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.